By the rivers of Babylon, yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Thanking the Creator of heaven and earth for life, food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Also being grateful that on this day that the Most High God has blessed us all with life, waking us up, and all the things that we desire. I give glory to the Most High God for all things and everything. Hallelujah. Giving due respect to the leadership of our congregation, D.C.B, even my brother Chief Prince Yehudah Ben Saskar, also acknowledging all the brothers and sisters, and praying that the Most High God will bless us all. So once again, today we'll be doing another Tanakh review, and we will be going over the book of Proverbs chapter 6. And for that, it will be none other than one of my teachers and one of my mentors, even Nasik, Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, I'd like to give honor to the Supreme Time Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Due respect to the platform on D.C.B channel platform, Chief Prince Yehudah Ben Saskar, the host Chief Yisrael, to the princes, Chief, Kohanim, Rabbinate, Moorings, brothers and sisters, visitors, greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem, and an early Shabbat Shalom. And I'd like to start off as usual. Adonai Sabtai Taku Fiyagi Tita Theaka, O Lord, unto my lips, and my mouth should declare that praise. I'll be covering, as Chief Uzel has already stated, Proverbs, the 6th chapter, but also when we're talking, highlight some things, and the Sidra that just passed, Toldo. So, and which is from the place I grew up in BINAH Zakim, Genesis is always an impactful. Out the 5 books, is mostly impactful because it covers so much social and family issues. So we mostly focus that's mostly one of our major things we drive home a lot in teachings for beginners class, people that's coming aware of themselves at that time. So I'll be talking on Toldo. But before I go on the Sidra Toldo, I like to also, I seen a couple of issues in that was in the chat in reference to I think one person may mention that, well, a question, I think it was a question that was other people got circumcised other than Abraham, and the answer is, as I stated before, yes, they did. The Egyptians have records of them, performing a circumcision. And also, when we get later on, it was reserved for certain elite people. Everybody, it wasn't a thing was rampant done. It was select group of people in small circles. So it was never explained what a circumcision is, as I spoke on earlier. When Abraham got circumcised, it was just to do it. And so it wasn't a thing where he wasn't familiar that existed. And it was a thing that the people of that was his servants wasn't familiar with as well. So and with the Egyptians, it was mostly a priesthood, a certain nobility class. As we know later on, Joseph, his wife, is taken from a priest class in Egypt. So it would bring a whole lot of correlations that you could talk about and think about why from that class instead of just from the general populace. And even Moses, when he left Egypt, running away, and he went to Midian, he had 2 sons, but only one son wasn't circumcised. And that should tell you if the Midianites, even though we know that the Midianites are actually a descendant of Abraham, it was in a priestly class that he took a daughter from. So those are some of the things to consider, and also to address another question that was posted. I mean, another statement that was posted. I don't think it was more of a question. Women in certain cultures got circumcised, but it won't stop them from being fruitful. And, it won't make them infertile. It was very damaging for most women that did get circumcised, but it was basically done to curtail a certain type of premature promiscuity of arousal. So, but it won't stop fertility, but a lot of women didn't do well when they did do it in those certain circles. So I just want to address those 2 things I've seen in the chat. Now, we into another episode. When we dealt with Kaya Sarah, we find that Abraham died. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him at the time. Okay, so and we read about Ishmael dying at 137 years old. So, if he died at 137, Isaac's only 13 years younger than his brother, 14 if you give or take. So between 13 and 14 years younger than his brother Ishmael. So you could do the math there and figure out how old Isaac was when Ishmael died. And we know Isaac lived longer than any other patriarch, and he lived to be 180. All right, so and we go on, and it says in the 25th chapter, Toldo started in 25th chapter of Genesis, and it goes from the 25th chapter, 19th verse, and it continues all the way to the 28th chapter and ends at the 9th verse. So I just want to highlight a few points, and then we'll go into the Proverbs. It said, and these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean, Padam Aram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean, to be his wife. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord let himself be entreated of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived. So a lot of times use the word Nicole, which means let me just get the word right here to make sure I get the proper word that's used here, which really means opposite, to be opposite. Let me see here. Hold on. So let me just find that one bit. Yeah, but what I find, lend the cart, that's the word. Lend the cart, the shorish is noon kaf. Noon kaf kate. That's the shorish, the root. Noon kaf kate. And it means to be in opposition or pole, opposite one another. So it's really saying that when we look at that, and for those that might not, follow the Hebrew text, we could get an idea that he was in, it said the Lord let himself be entreated of him, and Rebekah's wife conceived. So one, you find a cycle that's broken. You never read where Abraham prayed for his wife Sarah to conceive, though, he wanted a son. but never, you figure, why did Abraham never pray for his wife to conceive? And also, you never read where Yaakov, who's afterwards, even prayed for Raquel to conceive, in the main love. And we know also that all the matriarchs would have been barren. So this is something to consider, that Isaac came with something unique out of the three patriarchs. He waited a while, and then he got married at 40. And then the reason he's given the age of when they got married is because 20 years later, she wanted, as we're going to find out in the text, she can have two twins. And this happened to be the first mention of twins in Scripture. Before that, prior to that, you don't have mention of twins in Scriptures. It's never, I'm not saying that there never was twins in the earth before. I'm saying that here in Scriptures, this is the first record we have of people, a woman having twins. All right, so, and I just want to go to highlight some points there. That why did you listen to God, listen to Isaac, and not to Rebecca, or not to both of them? Those are some things I'm leaving on the table, because I'm going to draw some more questions. But anyway, God listened to Isaac, and she was conceived. And it said, and the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, wherefore do I live? And she went to inquire of the Lord. All right. So where did she go to inquire? It had to be some place or some people that she could go to and get information from. One of the teachings I use from coming from being inside King is that we know Shem, Noah's son, was still alive at this time. We also know that another great man, one of the descendants of Shem, Eva, he's still alive. And we know that there was somebody that Abraham recognized as being, a priest of the Most High. So when we think about this mysterious individual, Melchizedek is actually a title, king priest. That's we come into a season in this particular month on the Hebrew calendar. We come into a season which they call and consider the Maccabean period. All right, the Hasmonean period in some circles. And when they had defeated and be able to get control of Jerusalem again and purify Jerusalem, they set up an order. And these are Levites, but they set up an order of a priest king. And that's one of the what became an issue later on, when you're a priest, but now you're acting like a king as well. So that's another story. But I just want to bring out the concept of Melchizedek, which is a king of righteousness. And then that's what the Zedek means. Zedek means righteous, a righteous king. But a righteous king according to what? According to what standards that's in the earth? When Abraham was considered teaching commandments, according to what standards that we see written out? We don't see until later on. So, and Abraham recognized this individual, and not only that, gave him a tenth of all he had. So how did he come up with a tithe at this particular time? Well, that's another story to discuss. So, and the reason I bring this up is because it makes a big difference if you understand the concept of the story. Because when you look at it deeper, you'll find that if they praying against opposite each other, Isaac praying for his wife to be conceived, her womb to open up. So is she praying for that, her womb to open up. And God's entreated for Isaac's prayer. Why not both of their prayers? And then if she's gonna go, and she went out to get information about her pregnancy. Now she wanted to be pregnant, but it said that the children struggle in their wombs. All right. And she wanted to get some information. And I'm trying to be a little bit brief in this area. So it said, and the Lord said unto her. So a lot of times we would think God spoke directly to her because of the little meeting. And I brought out the scenarios in reference to being treated to Isaac's prayer, simply because sometimes it might say, and the Lord said unto her as a phrase of, she got word from the Lord from somebody else. You will have examples like that, but you can discuss it further with your teachers. And said, 2 nations are in thy womb, 2 people shall be separated from thy bowels. The one people shall be stronger than the other people. The elder shall serve the younger. All right, so now, that's the information she got. Question is, if you're in pain, most people go ahead and say, give me some herb, give me some kind of medicine to alleviate the pain. Since when knowing why I got the pain solves and alleviate the pain? That's something to think about. Because I feel something going on. And it's unusual. I wanted children, and I don't know I'm gonna have twins. All I know is it's a bunch of movement and chaos going on, and it don't seem. I know other women got pregnant, and they didn't seem to go through that much of a drama during their pregnancy. So if I got this commotion going on inside my body, I need to find out why is this. Because if I'm praying for something, then why is I'm struggling? Why I'm going, when I got what I wanted to be able to conceive. And then once I get this information, how's that information satisfying my pain? So those are some of the things to consider, as we go forward. And then you find out there's 2 manners of people. All right. They're going to be separated from their bowels. Same mother, same father. And talking about the elder shall serve the younger. All right. So one people going to be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. All right. You got some information there telling you what would be a trait of a child that have not yet even gotten here. So this going to be one trait that you're going to be able to identify as opposed to another trait. Now, stronger than the other, you should be able to see that trait right away. But service, the elder serving the younger, now that's a trait that you got to say, well, when would I see that? How can I experience that? When is it supposed to go down? And then if they both going to be born at the same time, now we know sometimes if you got children that's maybe 10 years apart, then naturally when the guy's a 3-year-old and then the other one's a 13-year-old, the 13-year-old would say, okay, let me fix you something to eat. Let me do this here for you. Let me help you, get in the chair, sit in this chair properly. All right, let me help you change your clothes. All right, is what this is leading to? And how could that be so in that sense? Here we got 2 of them are going to be the exact same age. All right, and one's stronger. And it seemed like you say, okay, if the stronger one happened to be the younger one, if the stronger one happened to be the younger one, then how could the elder serve the stronger when the stronger? We look at those areas there. Let me just slow it down just a little bit. And one people gonna be stronger than the other. you figure, okay, the one that's going to be doing the serving, he got to be the weaker guy. That's what you think. The one that's doing the serving have to be the weaker guy. So all these things, scenarios, you could buzz through your head as you think about this here statement that's going on. 24th verse. I'm not going to touch on everything here. I'm just going to highlight some points. And when the days were to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in a womb. And the first came out ruddy, all over like a hairy mantle. And they called his name Esau, or Esau, some people would say, but Esau. And after that came forth his brother, and his hand had hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, Yaakov. And Isaac was 80 years old, or scores 20, when she bore them. We don't know how old Rivkah was, but it was 20 years later from the time they met up that she had these two children. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter and a man of the field, and Jacob was a quiet man dwelling in tents. Now Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, and Rebekah loved Yaakov. All right, now I always speak on about the archetype and the stereotype, which we're gonna get into just a little bit, but I don't want to read the whole text. So I'm gonna be skipping here, highlighting here before I get into the Proverbs, which is pretty lengthy. When we look at that Isaac love for Esau, he said ate of his venison. You mean tell me that's all it takes for a father to love his son? That his son, brought him some venison, and that's it. And the reason I bring that up is because later on, when we get into the scenario, we look at Esau and say, and we know, I'm going ahead of the story, is that he sold his birthright for a pot of beans. Yeah, his father loved him. And it says because of his venison. Is it just meat alone? Is it just that? Is that's all to the story? We got to consider that. There got to be more to the story than just Isaac, a man of God, lived longer than all the other patriarchs, had the smoothest relationship now out of all the other patriarchs. Loved this individual like that. Let me just throw some other scenarios out. All right. We find a particular character as the boys grew up. All right. Esau being a hunter and a man of the field, and Jacob, a quiet man, as most books translate it, but it means they use the word Tom, which is a complete solid man all around, but a laid back. And sometimes they use the word Tom as being like a scholar too as well in modern literature, but spelled, with a tall and mem, Tom. A whole man, so to speak. Now, when we look at Isaac's brother, Ishmael, one of his brothers, Ishmael, I should say, and Ishmael was an archer. An archer going to be out there, robust, carrying on like that. When we look at that story, and we look at some of the characteristics of Ishmael, and we know what the angel says, his hand should be against every man, and every man's hand should be against him. When we think about Ishmael, you're saying this guy is a outright, he's gonna be a warrior. He's gonna be forced to be a warrior, and therefore, one of the major things in ancient times were not just having sword play, but also being able to cut down some of the enemy from a distance, and that was archery. So much so that centuries later, I believe one of the guys talking about we had to learn. Davidson mentioned that we had to learn the bow. The men of Israel had to learn the bow a lot better because it cut down, one of the first kings, King Saul. So sometimes we admire stuff that we can't do. We admire more of a guy's talent that we might lack. Isaac was not the outgoing guy. Stern, strict in his demeanor of following tradition. That's why he's represented, according to some Kabbalistic literature, as a Gevurah. So he was strict in that. But to say, well, I love this boy only because of that, or do I miss my brother? And this guy remind me of my brother, remind me of his uncle to a degree. And my father was a warrior, outgoing guy. So it could remind me of both. And yet I'm over there. And then he providing and serving me. Those are some questions I'm leaving to the forefront. And then it said, Rebecca just loved Yaakov. Why she loved him? Is it because she know about the prophecy? And then if she loved him because she know about the prophecy, that's going to bring another question later on in reference to this particular saga. Is that how do I love this individual simply because I know that he's going to be the one that's going to take the lead, though he's the younger. He's going to take the lead. He exhibit that he's going to turn things over when he grabbed the hold of Esau hill. Now, the name Esau means hairy, and the name Yaakov means it comes from the word Echev, which is a hill. Later on, also could mean a supplanter, a deceptionist. But sometimes the meaning is developed later on, as opposed to the original meaning of the word Yaakov, for Echev, from the word Echev. And Esau is called hairy because that's what he mostly, looked like. He had a lot of hair on his body. And I'm just going to read a couple more of this here, and then we're going to skip. One, you find out that 30th verse, and Esau said to Jacob, "Let me swallow, I pray thee, some of this red pottage." The word is double. Some of this red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, "Sell me first thy birthright." And Esau said, "Behold, I'm at the point to die. And what profit shall the birthright do to me?" And Jacob said, "Swear to me first." And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drank and rose up and went his way. So Esau despised his birthright. So it's the context here that we got to look at. All right. One, his grandfather entertained people, as I spoke on last time, entertained guests. And here it is that your blood brother that came out the same womb. And a lot of times they say they struggle and they fought in the womb. And it's like two types of twins. Some twins come down a different, fallopian thing, a different sac, have a different sac where they develop at. So they usually not, the science today don't know what makes twins identical. But there's two types of twins. One that come down from two different sexes. You can usually a male and a female. Those type of twins, and then you might have two females or two males. That might come out like that. But twins, and when they talk about one sac and one ovule, if you're struggling, which is a rare thing, that you have twins in one ovule, one sac. And the struggle is to breathe. The struggle is to eat. The struggle is to survive. Not necessarily I'm trying to kill you or you trying to kill me, but we're so close quarters that all I know is survival instincts. All right, all you know is survival instincts. So if you're struggling like that and you come out and in one tube and one sack, you got twins in one sack, they're gonna be congested and it's gonna be a struggle in that sack, because I need to breathe. I need to eat. I got that lifeline. We both got the same lifeline. We're both trying to share the same lifeline. So you can understand the struggle and that goes on in the beginning. And then you figure that Esau came from the field, and the book described him as faint, tired, ayef. All right. And he said, feed me. All right. He didn't say, hand me this, feed me. That means right then, whatever happened out there, he came by barely didn't even make it back home. And you said, well, you could say, why not call some of the servants? Get somebody to hook me up something. But he came to a brother, one that they never had issues before that we know of in the past. And when he said, you want to bargain and said, feed me first, sell me first, that was kind of cruel. And so that's like an injustice. And then after he ate and everything, it says he despised his birthright. What do they mean by despise it? That's just something, because if I'm gonna die, and this I'm at the point to die, what good would a birthright do me? If I'm dead, it's yours anyway. If I'm dead, there's no birthright to be claimed by me. So therefore, what purpose has it for me if I'm about at the point to die? And you will figure, once I say I'm at the point to die, shouldn't some kind of human compassion develop even more in that sense? And I done said that, and the next thing you're gonna say is, first sell me your birthright. That sounds real cold. Sound real hard to digest in that situation. And then after that, he only despised the birthright. It seemed like I would despise the guy. Me personally, I would say, wow, you cold, man. You mean tell me you treat me like that because of that? But Esau seemed to exercise a more noble thing. Instead of despising his brother, he despised what came between him and his brother. That's kind of noble to me, because I don't think I would have went that route personally. But so a lot of times people say, well, if I was in Esau's shoes, I would do this, I would do that. If you was in Esau's shoes, you would do what Esau did. You're talking about how you are and what you think of, and looking at the story from behind. All right. So now, and what's interesting, it's right after a person being fed, you read about a famine. So I'm not going to speak on that much, but I'm just saying, after an issue over food, then you read about a famine coming right behind the text behind that. So you can just say, well, what would be the cause of a famine now in a situation like this? So, that's another story to be discussed, as we go forward, and Isaac gets his first revelation from the Creator and told him, the Creator told him to stay in the land, don't go down to Egypt and everything. So he was trying to emulate what his father did in the situation. And he dug certain wells and stuff. So I want to go past the certain the wells. We know that Esau. We're gonna skip go all the way down to the 26th verse. 26th chapter, 34th verse, and it says that and when Esau was 40 years old, he took to wife Judah, which is Yehudah, the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. And they were bitterness of spirit unto Isaac and to Rebekah. Now, what's important is that he married at the same age his father married, at 40. And he took 2 wives. And the father was upset because of the wives. Now, these are Hittites too. People we're supposed to destroy. But the wives, and upset, and then the mother was upset because of the wives too. But when we stick with the story, we're going to find out some more family intrigues. That's why I like the story, and that's why I'm spending a little bit of time in it, even though I'm glossing over certain issues and try to bring out characters of individuals. And you figure Isaac loved Esau. So you figure he would tell his son, look here, you growing up, you got a little time, certain things you don't need to do. Certain things, is prohibited. But he didn't say that. And then 27th chapter, it says, and this is dealing with the blessings. And it came to pass that when Isaac was old, his eyes were dim, so that he could not see. He called Esau his elder son and said unto him, my son. And he said unto him, here am I. And he said, behold, I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore, take, I pray thee, thy weapon, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field and take me venison, and make me savory food such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. Important information there, but I'm not going to spend that much time in it. But one of the things is that why he got to eat and be in a good mood, to bless him. That's number one. And also it's a trait, like I said, we only think about Esau as a hunter. This man could cook. He's a chef. He know how to barbecue. He know how to go on the grill. So this is some of the talent that we don't think of. We think about Yaakov as a cook. But Isaac said, look, you cook and you roast and you could cook good. So you're not only a guy that's on the grill, you're a guy that could do other stuff in as we would say today, in the kitchen. This is some of Esau's trait that we don't tend to look at. That's already in the book. That's clear. And Isaac had plenty of servants, and he had a wife that we know from, we find out later, and that's an excellent cook. So we got to consider and looking deep into the character, because we focus on Esau, but how do we focus on Esau? How do we focus on the family dynamics? This is some of the things that we got to look at, the family dynamics. And then it said, and Rebekah heard when Isaac spoke to Esau, his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. And Rebekah spoke unto Jacob, her son, saying, behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau, thy brother, saying, bring me venison and make it savory food that I may eat and bless thee before the Lord before my death. Now, therefore, my son, hearken to my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock and fetch me from thence 2 kids of the goat, and I will make them savory food for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, so that he may bless thee before his death. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, behold, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall seem to him a marker, and I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. And his mother said unto him, upon me be thy curse, my son. Only hearken to my voice, and go fetch me thence. Fetch me them. And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother. And his mother made savory food such as his father loved. And Rebekah took the choicest garments of Esau, her elder son, which were with her in the house, and put them before Jacob, her younger son. Put them upon Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. And she gave the savory food and the bread which she had prepared unto the hand of her son Jacob. All right. I want to read on. The reason I read all that because it's important information that's going out, which I'm not going to cover a lot of in there, but it's important details that's within this here. One, what man, one dude, gonna eat 2 goats? Why 2 goats? You know, how much can one man eat in one setting? And we know refrigeration is not like the refrigeration of today. So one goat was for one thing and another goat for another thing. But why the 2 goats? And what could it possibly metaphorically represent? So those are some of the things to think about, as you discuss them with your various teachers in this area here. And then, what's Jacob's concern? That he gonna get caught and get a curse instead? But he's not concerned about the curse being on his mother. So you got to say, wow, now do that sound kind of selfish? I mean, when you say, well, I'm concerned about getting caught and getting a curse, so I want the blessing. And you tell, and you telling me, your curse be upon me, just obey your voice. Then you love me. How much do I love you? And we're going to read something in Proverbs about the teachings of the mother and the commands of the father in this Proverbs 6th chapter. So we're going to read something similar to that. But I'm bringing out all this here points here. When it says, obey the command of your father, and listen to the teachings of your mother. So, but to who advantage are you supposed to do those things? So we got to consider those things and weigh those things up, especially some of us that happen to be first generation awakening in ourselves into this, Israelite doctrine, Israelite, way of life and stuff of that nature. So we got to consider this stuff, because most guys love their moms. And you could talk about their pops all day long most of the times. And they say, oh man, your pop so and so and so. And they go back and forth with the pops things. But you talking about guy moms, now most times you're going to blows. So here's a guy that don't mind his mother being cursed, ain't worried about the curse. I'm gonna get a blessing. But if it happened to be a curse, I ain't gotta worry about that. So it made me wonder about the character at this time. And we all go through a certain type of development in life. But at what price does it take for us to go through a more laudable development? And that's what I like about these stories in Genesis, because we see a lot of intrigue going on, better than what you could come up with in Hollywood. And then, when we look further, and we know the jargon and stuff like that, but I'm just going to just read a little bit more of that. It's an 18th verse. And he came unto his father and said, my father. And he said, here am I. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise. All right. So now, I always say deception is not the same as lying. And it's the way you word the stuff in Hebrew, look at it, because we certain things supplied. We got punctuations. We got, stuff that you won't find in the text. You got to hear the tonation of voices in the text. Whereas when you're reading what is written out the scroll or out the Tanakh, we got punctuation because it's a modern invention to emphasize a certain level and range and guide your thoughts in a certain area. But when you read that stuff like that, what Yaakov say and everything, and I'm not going to go back through it, pretty much now. Pauses, exclamation pitch in your voice makes differences in what you mean. And what we know in the lab, the most direct things that after he went through all the motions of talking to him, smelling them, kissing them, feeling them, he said, "Are you my very son Esau?" And he said, "I am." So now in English, it was appear when you say "I am," when you ask that question, is that's a blunt statement and testimony to a lie. Are you my very son Esau? I am. All right. So now let's take it from ask another question. Man, you the greatest thing I ever seen. I am. So now, you the greatest thing I ever seen. I am. So I'm looking like, you're looking like I think of doubt. You know what I mean? Because you stating that I'm the greatest thing you ever seen. I don't see that. So now that same I am becomes more of a question instead of a statement. You know, and I hope people, you know, I know I'm sure get some, you know, replies in reference to that. But the same word. So that's why I said deception is sometimes to be so so tight it would appear as a lie. Now a lie is straight out lie. That's what it is. That's so when you look up and deal with this deception in the book, you make a person believe one thing, you know, but it's not what you actually say, and it's not what it is. You leave the burden of the belief on the person as opposed to a straight out lie. So that's why I'm saying, and he used a lot of deception here. All right. But we skip on down just a little bit more in this area here. And let's look at the blessing. All right. So in the 27th verse of that same chapter, the 27th chapter, and talking about Jacob, said, well, let me take from the 26th. And his father Isaac said unto him, come near now and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him. And he smelled the smell of his raiment and blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of the field which the Lord hath blessed. So God give thee of the dew of the heaven and of the fat places of the earth and plenty of corn and wine, and let people serve thee and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow to thee. Cursed be everyone that curses thee, and blessed be everyone that bless thee. All right. So now, that blessing there was for Esau. But we find out later when Jacob get ready to leave, that's not the blessing and the part of the covenant that God wanted for Abraham. All right. Because in part of the covenant that God had for Abraham, you know, it said all nations will be blessed by them, but it never said that they would be the head of every nation. And all nations must serve them. You know, so he given a blessing that's tailored for Esau, but not a blessing of the patriarch that need to go to the next generation and the next and take it to the next level. So those are some of the areas there that's important to understand as we look at the wording here. And it came to pass as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce going out from the presence of Isaac, of his father, that Esau's brother came from his hunting, and he also made savory food. All right, so we know that Isaac got back, you know, and he wanted. So when Esau got back to his father Isaac, he had not only caught the venison, dressed it, cooked it, all that taking time, and he got dressed. So now he had Jacob wearing the best of this man's clothes. All right, and we're gonna all this stuff in Proverbs is gonna be coming out similar to, you know, in the Proverbs 6th chapter. So you're gonna find a lot of similarities and a lot of cautions and stuff like that for different areas. And we know that automatically that from the end of the story that when Isaac found out and said, and Isaac trembled, 33rd verse, and was exceedingly very exceedingly, and said, whom then is he that had taken venison and brought it me, and I've eaten of all before thou camest, and I blessed him. Yea, he shall be blessed. All right, so now we automatically, you know, use the word gom also to be blessed. So in other words, I can't take that back. It's a done deal. All right, so Isaac knew that he made a mistake. So now another question I'm gonna bring out before we go forward, is Rivka was told something concerning the children. How come she didn't share this with Isaac? Why she kept that to herself? Could it be her love was based on what she knew? And maybe his love was based on something else? What he did, which we read what his love was based on in the scripture. We read that. But could it make a change if this son gonna be the main son, and it's coming from divine source, that this son gonna be this and that and the other? Would you treat your children different when you have a certain type of favoritism, and simply because you already know ahead of time that this is supposed to be the one? So was it better for her to hold to herself what she was told and the information she had to save the as I say, the favoritism? Or should she share that information and perhaps they could have worked on it together? See, so parenting supposed to be, and when we say co-parenting, they always think about that, the father living someplace else, and the mother someplace else with the kids, and they say co-parenting. But co-parenting is you both responsible, and that's what the Proverbs going to let you know too, that you're both responsible for the individual, and you're supposed to raise them together. So these are some of the things I like to bring out. And then the last thing I'm going to bring out before I go into, Esau got a blessing, and his blessing was the sword and everything. So that was the main thing. But I'll be remiss if I didn't bring out this point here. It said, in the 38th verse, and Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, my father. That's in question. Could a man only have one blessing? That don't seem normal, that a man have one blessing. Abraham was blessed in a lot of stuff. That's why they use the word bakal and everything. So do you have one blessing? A legit question to ask. You know what I mean? Because my grandfather was blessed in everything. So, you tell me that's all you got? And you supposed to got everything he had? And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, behold, of the fat places of the earth shall be thy dwelling, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by that sword shalt thou live, and thou shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt break loose, that thou shalt shake his yoke off from off thy neck. All right. So now, when we talk about Esau and Edom, one of the things I like to bring out too, and focus on this. Edom, the nation of Edom, none of Abraham's descendants is going to be wiped out forever. I want to make that perfectly clear now. He's a descendant of Abraham. It might be hard to identify these guys, but as a descendant of Abraham, they won't be wiped out forever in that sense. So when we look at, they might be acculturated and go into other names, just like Joseph said, Jacob said when he was blessing Ephraim and Manasseh. So any other sons you have had to fall under their names. So this is some of the things that some of the things that we got to look at when we deal with the scriptures and analyze some of these points here. All right. And then when would Esau break the yoke? When will he break the yoke? At what time? We know David subjugated Edom. When you read later on, they rebelled around Solomon's time. And a whole lot of stuff was going on after Solomon had messed up. So these are things to consider. We know in Babylon, Edom had his throne there. When Babylon was coming to destroy Jerusalem, Edom had his throne sitting out there too. You say, well, what he's doing out there? With the opposition. So we're going and we also during the Northern Kingdom, Edom supported the Northern Kingdom one time. They go against the kingdom of Judah. So when we say how long the yoke was on Edom's neck, when he broke the yoke, that's something to discuss and think about. And that's the descendants. All right. And then the 41st verse, I'm just going to finish up in here. Well, pretty much. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, let the days of mourning for my father be at hand, and then I will slay my brother Jacob. And the words of Esau, her eldest son, were told to Rebekah. And she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, does comfort himself, proposing to kill thee. Wow, he said, look at here, I'm upset, but let me take a break. Let me take a breath. I know what I could do. But right now, I don't want to upset my father. So, one, who you know will put away their hurt, their anxiety, just because it affects somebody else. So that makes him seem a little bit more concerned about a next individual than Jacob. Because he said, I'm heated. I want to murder somebody. I want to murder this individual for what he done to me. And yet, he said, I got to consider my father's feeling. That is really noble in that sense. Now, I know there's a lot of, things in midrashic stories and stuff like that where they paint, Esau as this villain, this great, great, great villain. But how many times you might tell somebody, your close friend, not just your kids, your close friend, look, if you do that, look what you're gonna start, what you're gonna affect. Look, what's the domino effect you're gonna have with this here. Consider somebody else's feeling, in this case. But your feelings hurt, but consider somebody else's feeling. This is some of the things here that we learn from this story here. Esau is the first person you read about in scripture that considered somebody else's feeling over their own hurt, anxiety, and loss. Now that's prolific. 2 sons. Mom, you can take the curse if it's a curse coming. The other one, you're about to die, but I don't want you to die heavy-hearted. So I'm gonna hold back. But you know how I feel about the situation. But you don't know what drama I'm gonna do after that. And so much so that Isaac didn't see this even in Esau, that he wanted to kill Jacob for what he did. He didn't see that. So that's a good cover up if anything, a good self-control, if anything. Real strong control. And you can't help but admire something like that, because he's the epitome of honoring your father. Esau, in a sense. All right. So when we look at that, the last part of that verse, it says, and this is important for the story to go on. Said, tarry him a few days, talking about her brother, until thy brother's fury turn away, until thy brother anger turn away from thee. Said fury and anger, and he forget that which thou hast done to him. Wow, she know when you say what he done to him, not to her father Isaac, but to what she done to her brother. And when she was a co-conspirator, but it said what you done to him. So it's important stuff to look at this thing in detail. Then I will send and fetch thee from thence. Why should I be bereaved of both of you in one day? Now, who's the two she's going to lose in one day? Is it Isaac and Jacob? Or is it Jacob and Esau? Or is it Esau and Isaac? Because, that we got to consider. in that sense. And Rebekah said unto Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Het. If Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Het, such as these of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me? All right. Then we know right then we're skipping into the last verse, and this particular sidra. It said, well, we know Jacob got the blessing. Jacob got the blessing of Abraham before he got ready to go. Because Isaac said, I'm gonna give him a blessing before you go. Charge him with the blessing of Abraham in the 20th chapter. And said in the 9th verse, but I'm gonna stop there because I've been a little long. About 7th verse. No, I better take it from the 8th verse. And Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan pleased not Isaac his father. So Esau went unto Ishmael and took unto him the wives that he had, Machlah, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife. So I'm gonna stop there. That ends the sidra. But there's a lot of stories that I didn't touch on, a lot of areas I didn't touch on, but I'd like to leave you with this. You mean to tell me Esau had to be married for at least close to 30 years? How many children you could have in 30 years? You didn't read where his parents, was barren. And I'm taking the 30 years about dealing with backtracking when we find Jacob's actual age later on, and backtracking to this event when he had the kids, how long he stayed in Padan Aram, how old he was when he was, when he mentioned, to Pharaoh, that was 133 years old and all that stuff, and how old Joseph was, and that math like that. So you figure Esau been married for close to 30 years. His mother and his father couldn't stand his wives. I wonder what report he had with the children that Esau had in that period of time. And then we know that Jacob wanted to get a wife in his 70s. And they the same age, going to that area there. So, and he stayed over there for 20 years. So imagine how old Jacob was, and he's still worrying about Esau. And then one important thing, how did Deborah become part of Jacob's household? His mother said, when I think things are cool, I'm going to send and fetch you. Not that I'm going back to get you. Deborah was her nurse. So it's a lot of things that go on like that there, but that's another topic to bring back another time. We're going to go straight to the Proverbs, the 6th chapter of Proverbs.
We're in the book of Proverbs,
yeah.
chapter 6, starting from verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
My son, if thou art become surety for thy neighbor, if thou hast struck thy hands for a stranger, thou art snared by the words of thy mouth, thou art caught by the words of thy mouth. Do this now, my son.
Okay, keep on.
Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself, seeing thou art come into the hand of thy neighbor. Go humble thyself and urge thy neighbor. Give not sleep to thy eyes, nor slumber to thy eyelids.
I might as well finish it all the way out. All right, the 5th verse, finish the 5th.
Deliver thyself as a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, as a bird from the hand of the fowler.
Now stop right there. All right. So a lot they're saying here. This Solomon speaking to an individual as his son, but when it talks about surety, that's co-signing. That's what it is. Co-signing, in a nutshell. Now we know certain business that transaction had to be, especially if you're just starting out, you need a co-signer. You develop a certain type of credit rating, and it's saying he's warning people not to be co-signing too quickly off of other people's debts. And you got a lot of core issues behind premature co-signing and stuff like that. The gift for gab and everything like that there. Mostly it'd be a lot of parents getting, co-signing off their children and stuff like that. But Solomon is not against co-signing, making a surety for somebody. But the thing is that if you're stricken, I mean you're too quick not to consider the parameters, then you're going to be held responsible, because now you become indebted, for the person, because then if the person defaults, then it's you that you got to deal with it. So, and that in America, that's pretty rampant. So this what Solomon warning people said, look, don't get hyped up right quick. Don't pledge too quick, right quick. You know what I mean? And somebody co-sign on it. But we know that most people would think when you first read Proverbs that it seems like Proverbs is against co-signing. It's not against co-signing when you check other stuff in it. It's just actually that, you got to be careful when it's talking to a young man, not a person that's been around for a moment, a young man that you could get mesmerized with something and say, no, don't worry about that. The famous saying today, I got you. That's the famous saying today. But you got, but today it's a lot more, serious too, when you put your hand down. All right. The 6th verse.
Verse 6, it reads, Go to the ant, thou sluggard, and consider her ways and be wise, which having no chief overseer or ruler, provided for bread in the summer, and gather for food in the harvest. How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou rise out of thy sleep? Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, so shall thy poverty come as a runner, and thy want as an armed man.
All right, let's stop right there before we go to 12. All right. 1, it's talking about slugger. Now, slugger is like a snail. All right. So a slugger is a lazy person. And some, you can walk down the street, and if a snail's on the wall, and you can say, okay, I can walk down the block and come back, and I still can find out where he at. That's how slow he moving. A snail move. So here it is. That's what the term about a slug. A slug is a snail, and it's a lazy person, a person that don't move as fast, and it tell you to say, it's talking to us, says, go to the ant, thou slugger. Ants stay busy all the time. We think about bees being busy, and we say busy as a bee, but the ant structure is much more unique. That's why I never say go to the bees, and the ants is have a society that is really unique, and they talk about have no chief, no guide, ruler, overseer. It's not because I have demands. I got rank and file that is because I'm the commander over here. I'm over you. Ants don't have that. They have jobs. Whereas in beehives, they have rank and file. The queen is an authority, and she designates what goes on pretty much. Whereas in the ant, the queen is just, her job is to produce. That's her job. The ants protect the queen just like the bees protect their queen, but for a different reason. They protect their queens amongst the ants because that's part of their survival of the future. Where the bees want to protect their queen because that's normally strictly their job. And as it says, when we look at the government, the balance is more stable than a beehive, and when we say no ruler, guide, or overseer, and what an ant does, it got a lot of things to provide. Let's go and see what some of the qualities he talks about concerning the ant, dealing with the 8th verse. Pick it up from the 8th verse. I went too fast. Yeah, I went too fast. I went back. Yeah. All right. So to provide. All right. That's the providing the bread. In other words, it provides. It gathers. All right. That's one of the things. Provide, gathers. Provide, gather bread, food in the summer and in the harvest. So the ants have seasons that is working. It has a time limit. It does things within a time zone. A slugger will not do things in a time zone. Usually a good administrator always say, look, we need to set deadlines. Realistic goals got time. If you don't have realistic goals, if you don't have no time, you can never have no realistic goals. When you have forever to do something, you take forever to do something. But if you have a time frame to do something, any great business or organization is always, when they work on something, it's a particular deadline, a tentative date. And that you can monitor your efficiency by that. So, and the ants is also, when you study the ants will make a bridge with them out themselves for the other ants to cross. They'll do that. Ants, if they go to war, if the ant is not dead, they carry back their wounded and try to lick their wounds or whatever it is, stuff they got. You know what I mean? They try to. I did a little, reading on some ants, and certain ants they lick the wounds, try to heal the wound. An ant might have lost a limb, but whatever they got going on, whatever it is, it kind of like help them out and aid them. And ants actually will not only bring back sometimes the dead bodies, the dead back. They also have a burial chamber, and if an ant got a certain disease, looks sickly, they separate that ant from the rest of the colony. So they say, we're gonna put you in quarantine. That's an ant. I mean, you don't read about bees, but they actually have a quarantine section amongst ants. So Solomon really studied the ants enough to know that out of all the insects in the world, out of all the society of creatures in the world, ants has the most harmonious society that ever exists. That's why it says, consider her ways and be wise. All right. But then in 12th verse, it says, a base person of iniquity. Keep on.
Verse 12 reads, base person, a man of iniquity, is he that walketh with a forward mouth, that winketh with his eyes, that scrapeth with his feet, that pointeth with his fingers. Forwardness is in his heart. He deviseth evil continually. He soweth discord. Therefore shall his calamity come suddenly. On the sun shall he be broken, and that without remedy.
Hold it right there. Okay, let's look at this here. First, a describing person, a base individual, all right, and a man of a man of iniquity. He's saying this is what I mean by base. I don't mean because you're not so affluent. I mean that means that you're doing stuff that's low, gutter type stuff, unseemly stuff. That's a base individual there. You use the word Belial. But personified with wickedness. And when it says sons of Belial, that's like wickedness in the Hebrew. All right. And then it says, is he that walketh with a forward mouth? I mean, it's a guy that always, kind of be vulgar with his words. A person that, use a lot of vulgarity, a lot of obscenities. I used to say, a man that uses obscenity or vulgarity a lot is a fool trying to express themselves the best way they know how. And then when we look even further, it says, that winketh with his eyes, that scrapeth with his feet, that pointeth with his fingers, forwardness is in his heart. He devises evil continually. He soweth discord. Therefore, his calamity shall come suddenly. On a sudden shall he be broken, and that without remedy. In other words, this guy could all this stuff he talk about. And let's look at the stuff he used: eyes, winking with his eye, right? Scraping with his feet, pointing with his finger. These are all the stuff that's described here is modes of communication. Sign language, we call them today. These sign language. That's all it is. Everything they describe in this here few verses here is forms of communication. And it's communication that's saying everybody not supposed to know what's going on. It's an inner loop. So when you wink, say, all right, you don't want nobody else to know. You're trying to be as subtle and deceitful, subtle as possible when you wink. All right. When you're talking about, you point your finger, that's what we're talking about, pointing the finger. All right, scrape it with your feet. That means that right then and there, should you do so? And the guy get ready to answer, step on his toe, step on his foot, kick him in the leg underneath the table if they get ready to bring out the wrong stuff. clear your throat, like that. Those are some gestures. Everything it describes here is forms of gesture, communication. And it's communication like, are you getting ready to blow the beans? All right, this between me and you. Don't let anybody know this. This is what's going on with this here particular thing here. And it says, when a person do stuff like that, he gonna and talk about even your heart. So the last thing it covers with, and they're gonna get into it, it's gonna be a little bit redundant in this particular portion, but it's gonna be he divides the mischief in his heart, sow a discord. All right, a guy that sow discord is one thing, but let's go a little bit further. I'm gonna try to speed this up a little bit. I see my time.
Verse 16, it reads,
Yeah.
there are 6 things which Yahuwah hateth, yea, 7 which are an abomination unto him. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that deviseth wicked thoughts, feet that are swift and run into evil, a false witness that breatheth out lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren.
Hold it right there. Didn't we just read something up here just a few verses ago from the 12th verse to the 15th verse? We just read similar stuff here. But now, this here, the difference here is that now I'm just bringing it home. So it's one thing to do this here abroad, but now you're bringing it back into the family matter. And that's where the problem is now. I mean, it's bad on both accounts, but we just have to say, don't mess where you eat at. A lot vulgar. So this individual said, nah, I need to bring this thing home. You know what I mean? I got to get more up close and personal. And then we're talking about 7 things, 6 things the Lord hated, yea, 7, which are abomination to him. Anytime you see numbers like that, you're going to find like 6 and 7, 3 and 4, different parts of the book, 7 and 8 in different parts of the book, in Ecclesiastes and Amos and stuff like that. It just means an excessive amount of time. It's not always getting the exact numbers, but it means something that's excessive. And then not only when we look at that as being excessive, but when they say an abomination unto him. So not only the Lord hated his abomination, men hate this. The same thing we read about here, God don't like it, and the guys that do it don't like nobody else doing that. And that's something. A liar don't like liars. Though they lie, but they don't like other liars. All right, so a person that sow discord, and when you're sowing discord amongst brothers, and the difference between the discord here, it said he that sowed discord among brethren. All right, sowing discord, period, is bad in a community. But when you sow it amongst family members, then that is tragic. So that's why it let you know that amongst the brothers, it brought God in on this. God don't like that at all. All right. But when we look at that even further, all right. Let's keep going. Let's I'll be too long on this, but let's go pick it up on the 20th.
Verse 20. My son, keep the commandment of thy father and forsake not the teaching of thy mother. Bind them continually.
We're going to stop there before I forget that point. I was bringing up about commandments of the father and teaching of the mother. Your mother is your first teacher. Your mother usually introduces you to your father. All you know is that you build up an affinity because you give it. She nursing you, feeding you. Everybody else is strange. You don't feel no bond to that. You feel some kind of connection physically to the mother. Even with the cord severed, you feel a certain type of connection before you feel that strong connection with the father. So she's giving you instructions, certain instructions about survival and stuff like that there, and how to watch yourself. Those usually your first instructions coming from your parents is survival mode, whether it's cleanliness, whether, eating properly, be careful from you doing this or going over here and going there. So those are survival modes that mostly come from your mother, those certain teachings that she will give you. When we look at that, one example is that when a parent stop being a parent to their child, and I'm just using mother in this case, but either one, is that as long as a woman is giving a child breast milk, she's going to produce breast milk. The minute she stopped giving that child breast milk, the breasts start to dry up. Ain't that something? That's a biological truth. As long as she's nursing, she's going to produce that milk. But the minute she stopped nursing, she's no longer going to produce that milk. So this is something to consider here in that area there when you talk about the teaching. So you can finish with 21st verse. Keep going. 21.
Verse 21. Bind them continually upon thy heart, tie them about thy neck. When thou walkest, it shall lead thee. When thou liest down, it shall watch over thee. And when thou wakest, it shall talk with thee. For the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. To keep thee from the evil woman, from the smoothness of the alien tongue. Lust not
Now what that now hold it. Why that got to come in there at this point in time to keep you from the alien woman? And when they first talking about both parents, commandments and teachings, all right, and then but now it uses the evil woman, all right, and not only it says the evil woman, and it says the smoothness of the alien tongue, a strange tongue, saying, relationships is important. A good parent, supposed to be preparing their children for decent relationships. That's what they're supposed to be. So hence, Esau was not properly prepared, evidently, when he got married, where Abraham went out the way to prepare a relationship for Isaac. All right. Now Rivkah and Isaac going out their way to prepare for a relationship for Jacob. Though they fell with Esau in this area here. So the thing is that today, most kids figure their parents don't know nothing about, I don't know. How you gonna tell me who I should, fall in love with? I'm not telling you who you can fall in love with. I'm not trying to tell you who you should like, who you like. I'm just telling you whether they qualify to be liked by you or loved by you. That's all. That's what a parent does. We don't have no control of who you might love and who you might like. But we do have a say in saying what's worth you liking, what's worth you loving, and this relationship here. And so the writers switched from all this stuff about the discords and the liars and the deceits and people that they could send through all these forms of communications and saying, ultimately, when you learn certain ground rules, and they keep you and choose a woman because you figure, why they choose a woman? Not that I'm trying to be condescending on women, but one of the things when they choose a woman in that sense is because the only person, only individual that can make a man actually turn to God or from God is a woman. And the case with the mother of all living, Kaiwa, it said, you listen to the voice of your wife instead of the command which I had, given. All right. So the thing is that it was not the conversation, it's the words, the tone, So that's why it describes it, the smoothness of the alien tongue. Not so much the words itself, the lyrics of the alien tongue. But so these are some of the things we pick up here. So let's go from the 25th verse.
Verse 25 reads, Lust not after her beauty in thy heart, neither let her captivate thee with her eyelids. For on account of a harlot a man is brought to a loaf of bread, but the adulteress hunteth for the precious life.
And that's something saying right there before we go to 27. All right. And saying, look, it's going to cost you. It said brought to a loaf of bread. That means you're going to lose all your money. But it says that's a harlot. It's making a contrast between a harlot and an adulteress, a woman that's married. All right. A harlot, you're going to get broke behind it. You're going to spend a lot of money behind it. You're going to lose your stuff, your substance behind it. But it says, though you lose and wind up with just one loaf of bread left, and when it comes to adultery, your life is at stake now. You lose your life. So it makes that contrast right there. Not saying that, all right, well, if I had a choice, I'm just going to deal with the harlots, and like that. No, it's going to cost you either way. Just that one, you lose your life. Now pick it up in the 27th.
Verse 27, it reads, Can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? Or can one walk upon hot coals and his feet not be scorched? So he that goeth into his neighbor's wife, whosoever toucheth her shall not go unpunished. Man, do not despise a thief if he steal to satisfy his soul when he is hungry.
Hold right there. Stop right there. All right. I got to touch on a couple, but I'm trying to be quick. All right. So one of the things is this here. All right, and let you know, man. And it's talking about that now. We're talking about these type of women, and talk about fire to the bosom, and it goes on and saying how bad it is, and it gives you an analogy of clothes being burned, your feet being burned if you walk on hot coals, and it says, and so does he that go into his neighbor's wife. It says neighbor, not a brother. Anybody wife? Anybody? Because when you're gonna be sneaking around, gonna be somewhere. Most times gonna be close, And said, whoever touches her shall not go unpunished. I mean, I say you ain't gonna go unpunished. Now, maybe man might not catch you right away, but the Creator, and so Solomon let you know that something gonna happen to you. Men, you might slip away from men, but you won't slip away from the Creator. And it goes on to say, men do not despise a thief if he steal to satisfy his soul when he's hungry. All right. But so when we talk about that, let's go to the next verse. It says, but if he be found, he must restore sevenfold. He must give all the substance of his house. All right. Now, a thief, what he's saying right then and there, it's just an analogy with the harlot as opposed to the adulterer. A thief, we know sevenfold is just what they're saying. Like I said, threefold blessing, this and that and the other. It's just an expression, because we know we got paying double, paying the fourth, paying the fifth part. We got those actual monetary scales listed in the Tanakh, listed in the Torah about what a guy's pay if he stole this or stole that, and the guy being sold for his death. All right, so we got exact amounts here. So it's not like a sevenfold, like the book said. Just use an expression of how it's going to cost you a lot, but you can pay. You can buy your way out of this, and that's what it's saying. You can buy your way out of this here if you're a thief. That's why I said people don't despise the thief, because if you despise the thief, how you sell him? Who will buy him? I was hungry. I know guys, man, that they go to the supermarket, and as they pushing that cart around, and this is what they told me, because I wasn't with them, but this is what they told me. I go around there pushing the cart around the supermarket, and I'll open up a bag of chips. I open up this here if they have any sandwiches or something like that. I'm putting part of them in the cart, putting stuff in the cart, and eating as I'm going, and leaving the wrappers there in the car. And then all of a sudden, when they finish, you got their full, they go out the store, leave the cart in there. You know what I mean? So they done ate already, but they didn't pay for the items already that they ate, but they left the rest of the items in the cart in the store, and they walk out the store. And the guy said, well, I said, wow, that's cold. Is that what the man gonna do? You can't tell me to give it back. I done ate it already. But this was their mentalities, guys, I know growing up. But here it is that they're saying the thief, you could buy your way out, and men don't despise a thief because he's hungry. But they don't like him either. They didn't say they love him. And that's why I'm going to caution people about, though you may just not despise him. And that's if he's steal because he's hungry, because some people just are klepto. Some people just steal just for the thrill of stealing. They just can't help themselves. They just like to do that and create chaos. And that's another form of, creating discord amongst brothers, because everybody was in here. Nobody got my item. Nobody seen it. Yeah, we all seen it, but we don't know what happened to it afterwards. Just like you lost sight of it, we lost sight of it. So now you're looking at everybody trying to wonder, think back. And then you're going to have a sliding scale. Who's possibly would do this and who possibly won't do that. All right, but then it goes on to say, 32.
Verse 32, it reads, he that committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He doeth it that will destroy his own soul. Wounds and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. For jealousy is the rage of a man, and he will not spare in the day of vengeance. He will not regard any ransom, neither will he rest content, though thou giveth many gifts. Hallelujah.
All right there. All right, so what it's saying is, when it comes to adultery and stuff like that, in the adultery area, all right, adultery, and you notice it starts with covetousness. That's the 10th commandment, covering your neighbor's wife. So when it's talking about your neighbor's wife, committing adultery with your neighbor's wife, that's in the 10th commandment. The Decalogue, we all heard at Mount Sinai. And that's just, and then, it starts from eyes that wink it. Hey, man, you need to throw that wink. And then, your eyes, you started thinking, and you started coming around more in the presence. Then your heart started leaping into it and getting involved in it. So all these stuff it talks about, and when in the beginning of the chapter, it forms a buildup, to a sin, to an atrocity and iniquity that God don't approve of. And this is what Solomon is describing and saying, we see you, but you don't see you. I see how this spills up. And so we usually say that wherever the mind summons in the camp, we say, whatever the mind summons, the flesh manifested eventually. So that means that we got to have noble thoughts, good thoughts. So I hope, I know it's a little long. I'm going to try to be short in the future, but I hope you got something out of what I said. Any mistakes been my own, and leave a comment if it's some things I didn't explain well or I did a terrible job on. I could take criticism like that, and I'll try to do my best to do better. With that, I say Shalom Aleichem, an early Shabbat Shalom.
Hold on, Prince. You know what's interesting about this, especially this. So we these proverbs are accounts of King Solomon. Basically, I look at proverbs like it's reinforcing Torah for most part.
Right.
But it's interesting that, Melech Dawi committed adultery, and when Solomon speaks about these proverbs, he always speaks like his mother and his father gave him the advice. You ever thought about that? That, being that David did what he did, and he still passed this down to Solomon in this way?
Well, like I said, when I was up there before, and we had this big discussion, God charged him more with the depth of the individual You know what I mean? But you don't see a blatant charge. Even though you read in the Chronicle and blah, it said it was and you took so and so's wife. All right. That's just an expression that was your motive for having them killed. But the thing is that if besides some of the rabbinic traditions, I'm gonna leave the rabbinic traditions out. If we went to war with anybody, all right, you went to war with anybody, the woman could be married, and you could slay a husband, you could take her, whether whether she's a virgin or not. Moses made the specific thing when they fought against Midian, that when those 12,000 men, 1,000 from each tribe, went out with officers and brought back all the people, females, Moses said, "You brought back all the women?" And then they said, "Keep only the virgins." All right, so they had to slay and keep a certain amount of virgins. But whether the woman was a virgin or not, in war they would take it. So it's like certain traditions that left there. So if Uriah being a Hittite, and refusing to command the man of the king to go in, he already slated as a dead man. You know what I mean? But we not saying everybody did law according to as we see law written directly, but the king privilege was that if he told you to do something, you're supposed to do it. And then God supposed to hold him accountable. And God only held him accountable, but said he couldn't build the place because he's a man of war. It never said in reference to that area. And then a death did occur, which is the son that she was pregnant with. The death did occur. So there's always a controversy on that. We don't have all the answers in reference to that. But the son died, which would have been a mamzer. By technical terms, a mamzer, a bastard in that sense, because her husband was still alive at the time when she got pregnant. But after he finally was dead, that's when he officially married her. So David going by not only the tradition that other kings did at that time. I mean, I ain't not talking about Israelites because he's the second king amongst the Israelites, and Saul didn't do anything like that. But he's the second king. I mean, he's a king at the time that everybody else on other kingdoms did that. That's why when you read the 51st Psalm, he said, "Only before thee alone have I committed this sin." Because other kings had that right and that authority. And then, like I said, traditionally, they would say, when we look at the patriarchs, how can you say this is my sister and a man and put her in jeopardy like that? And that's to save your life. And Isaac himself in the story told Dope went through a similar thing about sporting with Rivkah, in a sense, with Abimelech. And Abimelech has seen him sporting. Couldn't he tell that she had children already, or what was going on with that? So with David himself, you're gonna find a majority of people that in the text, and I say from a rabbinic point of view more so than anything else, that and they use their technicalities on that, would say that God didn't charge him with adultery straight out of adultery, but with the murder of a man, and that's the support there. Now we know when he married Abigail, it's still listed as the wife of Nabal. You say, well, the man dead, but he's still listed as the wife of Nabal, her former husband. And when he mentioned the list of the wives of David, and it's called Michal, his wife. They said, well, aren't all of these his wife? But they call Michal his wife. So it's all those different issues there that presents itself in scriptures and in the chronicles and stuff like that. That's why the majority of people, only more so Christian people would say, well, he committed adultery, or on the surface it appeared and committed adultery, but what the Creator actually held them accountable for that prohibit him from being able to build a temple was the blood on his hands of being a man of war. So that's my answer. But you go there, I have a different view on it. No. This way, no. I'm giving you the reason, and I'm saying that it's not considered adultery. He never was charged with adultery. We would say adultery straight up because the way it went down. That was a judgment, not the charge. Yes. He was. Hold it. Uh, all right, let's follow this here. Let's follow this area here. His son Absalom dealt. His son Absalom dealt with those people in the daytime. He said, "You did yours in secret. I'm gonna do mine in the daytime. That your wives will be taken in the daytime." All right. Now, was Absalom charged with adultery? Uh, all right. Hold on. All right, Chief. I understand, but all right. Now, what iniquity? Hold it. What iniquity did Absalom die for? Did he die for? Okay. That's what I'm trying to bring I'm saying. I, so that's why I brought that point out. That it said that you did yours in secret, but your wives, be done in the sight of all Israel. All
Let me
right,
let me
and
let
it
me
had to
just
be a son.
let me just repeat something because my mic was muted, so the people didn't hear any of the points that I made. So y'all might have heard Prince Zurishaddai like talking to me, and you couldn't hear me. My initial point to Prince Zurishaddai was to Nasik Zurishaddai was that David got judged for sleeping. My initial point was it seemed like he's saying that David didn't get judged for the actual adultery with Bathsheba. And then I said, the sword not departing from David's house was the actual punishment for what he did with Uriah the Hittite's wife, which was Bathsheba. And then he said, well, what was the charge? And I was like, it was already judged. God judged it, so we could take it from there because all the other
All right,
thing when we went back and forth, they didn't hear my side of the argument.
all right, all right. God charged them. All right, we don't know what was all the judgment of God in that matter. All right, we know
Right.
what God charged them with. That's why what you call Nathan came with a parable. And that's why I use the example about Absalom and about cultures of the day and the 51st Psalm, where he said, only before you have I done wrong, because this is, in other words, this is the norm and and the priorities of a king. And that's why the 51st Psalm, and I also brought out earlier, just in case it had been missed, that the child that relationship would have been a questionable child. All right. All right.
Oh, you
And
said it
that
was
died.
Imam here.
Yeah, mom's here. Yeah, bastard. And because of, the question of she's still technically married, to Uriah the Hittite. And we talk about the noble heir and line. So, and that Solomon wound up succeeding who mother was Bathsheba. So that is another story that we could be discussing in a future time. You know what I mean?
Well, you started going into oh, Uriah got killed because he disobeyed the direct order from the king. He got killed because King David wanted to cover up
Oh,
his sin. I know you're a Judite and you're trying to protect the
no, no,
Judite
no, 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 no,
kingdom.
no. No, it's not about that. It's about seeking the righteous judgment. The thing was that, all right, the king has the power of life and death. All right.
Absolutely. In his
And he
mouth.
can
That's
send you
right,
to
in his
war.
hand.
All right.
That's
All
right.
right. And Samuel said, your king's going to send your children off the war, the sons off the war. All right.
Right.
Two, it's a lot of variables. I could bring up a lot of variable points, and I'm
Right.
going to try to be brief. Another thing is that he, Uriah came back and retorted. He's a Hittite. What are you doing marrying with an Israelite? That's number one. But then we just read about Esau marrying Hittites.
How do we
We
know
just read
she
about
was an
that.
Israelite? What does it say she was an Israelite?
Who? Bathsheba?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I mean,
obviously.
I'm just doing what you taught me to question
Okay,
everything.
and that's very good. That's very good. But all right. But the woman carried on, a national. But we know he was a Hittite. And the word and her name means a daughter that's promised. So we could go through some other. That's another talk on the side.
Okay.
All right,
All right.
daughter of a promise. What kind of promise? What kind of oath? So there's a lot of stories behind that, but I don't want to go into that
Because
now.
it wasn't like they
saying,
didn't marry foreign women. I mean,
I
Solomon
understand
married
that.
foreign,
I'm
King
saying,
David.
all right, but I'm saying we just read about Esau marrying two Hittites, and he said, "Look, I need to get this thing right." So he married,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with what
all
you're
right.
saying.
So now we were supposed to marry them and take and marry into those 7 nations, and the Hittites was one of those 7 nations that's supposed to have been wiped out. That's one of the
Absolutely.
7 nations that's mentioned. All right. So now, how is it that it was supposed to be wiped out? Now, at the time Esau married, they wasn't specified as one of the 7 nations.
Right.
All right. But later on, when the time we was leaving Egypt, that was one of the 7 nations that was specified. So
To be
that's
wiped out.
centuries before David even come on the scene. So that's there's a lot of parameters in place you could go in reference to that. But it was a blotch on David's integrity, so much so that I always say this here, and I always share this, that King David, never ever judged another case after the parable of Nathan. That's the last case he judged. When Nathan gave him that parable about the rich man, the poor man, and the rich man having visitors, that's the last case that David judged. And also, that's why Absalom said, if I was a judge, I hear your case. I hear your case. David didn't do that. That's why he left Solomon to say, look, finish court, so to speak, on things that I couldn't finish court on. But he started off talking about doing some good for some individuals.
Can I hit you with a technicality? I don't know if you're going to
Okay.
accept it. You might not
You
accept it.
hit me with a technicality, man. I can't accept it, if it's
It might be a technicality that you might not let go past, or you might attack, but all right, just hear me out. Wouldn't you say that because you said that was the last time he judged, but when David was old and he made the decision when he told Solomon about Absalom, not about Absalom,
Joab.
About Joab, he told him about the one who spat at him, and I always forget his name. Spat at him and threw stones at him. Shimei, right? And when he made the decision to publicly go before the nation and crown basically Solomon, wouldn't those be some type of judgments at some point? At least the first suit that I proposed.
Okay, the first to your approach. All right. If I understood your question correctly, all right. The first to it, all right. One, if he told him to deal with Joab, because I didn't take care of the judgment there. So I couldn't do it at the time. You know what he did to me?
I couldn't sneak that one by you. I knew you would get that. You too short for that.
I, second of all, you know, I mean, but he admitting that I didn't do what I needed to do. And Shimei, you know, I swore that I wouldn't do nothing to him, you know, at that time, you know, because he's on the run, you know. So, you know, but he said deal with him wisely and set him up. But you know, I mean, and then let him straighten himself up because he cursed the king and Lord's anointed. All right. So and threw rocks at him too. That's like a stoning.
Right.
All right. All right. So those area there, and then when we talk about Solomon being chosen, it's like a ruse. When you look at that Nathan told Bathsheba to go to talk to King David at the time, and he said, "I'm gonna confirm what you say while you still in there speaking." So it's a subtle thing going on, but David, you know, can't get no warm. Adonia is being acting like he's king, and you got Joab and all these guys and emissaries running with him, and this other guy, you know, this priest guy rolling with him, and Nathan letting them know that I will confirm what you said, Bathsheba. Now we didn't read where he ever promised that her son will be on the throne after that. So we, you know, it's always speculation. Was this a ruse? Was David not aware of the thing that's going on? And then that's when David made the move to inaugurate him in the presence, because she said we'll be considered traitors. Nathan said we'll be considered traitors. In other words, I'm gonna be slain for a capital punishment, and then only and Bathsheba gonna be slain as a capital punishment, and your son Solomon gonna be slain as a capital punishment. So,
do you ever think that the reason why David didn't judge Joab the way that he did because of Joab basically knew the kingdom's like inner runnings? Like it seems like David gave him a lot of passes. Like, you know, he kills Amasa. He murders Abner. Now I have a different opinion on the Abner situation. I think that was just the Avenger of Blood, and I think Abner fell asleep. But you know, for all intent and purposes, the king did say, you know, leave him alone, and he didn't follow. But even with all that, with Joab doing everything that he did, and how is it that David just went for that? Was he scared of him? Did he feel like he had too much dirt on him? Like, what do you think was the reason?
I believe it's a combination of both to a degree. One, he needed Joab, you know, for that time, and you know, and that was his nephew, you know, blood relationship. But and Joab himself, you know, had a personal. He threatened David, not only with Absalom, but you know what I mean. But you know what I mean. He threatened him. You know what I mean, that you lose the kingdom if you you know, because I got things in place already. So he threatened him, and now so if he threatened him, that'd have been another civil war when David was king and Saul was king. Israel was not 100% united. You know, so Abner was bringing the other percentage of Israel, the majority of Israel, to David. You know, and they had made a truce. So since they had made a truce in war, things happen in war. And Abner, and we know from the story that Abner told and tried to warn Absalom, you know what I mean, to turn back, get another man's armor, you know what I mean? Because
Asahel.
Asahel, yes, excuse me, Asahel, yes. He warned Asahel, you know, turn back and get another man's armor, because how can I look at your brother Joab?
Go get somebody on your level, boy.
Yeah. So, you know, and actually, that you know, I always pictured as a martial artist that he's running and talking and hit him with the back of the spear. So you know, I mean, not with the blade. It's at the back of the spear, and it went through him. So that means that he coming that hard. He's not even looking back. He did all he could to avoid him, because you figure he would have faced him with the spearhead. So that says volume about not only his skill, but also his concern. Because, you hit a guy hard, you figure you're going to drop him. You don't think you're going to really kill him with the back of the spear. But the spear, the back part actually went through. It wasn't, unless it was a two-edged spear, but it said the back, with the back hind part of the spear. In other words, it was only a one-head spear, not a double-head spear. So with that action there, he was justified because he's defending his life, in a battle. And Joab was not justified in killing him in that area. He stole him. That's why David had a tribute for Abner, in that sense. And he had to show people that
publicly,
the top man that brought the kingdom to me, I wasn't trying to get him out the way. It was a beef. But Joab now with the top general going, who gonna replace Abner on the other side? And you're trying to unite the kingdom. So it could have been another civil war, against Judah and stuff like that. So David had to work with that area there.
Yeah, David definitely was beloved by the Creator. I mean, we bring up there's so many things we could talk about Melech Dawi, because history shows us so much about his life, his ups and downs and everything. But at the end of the day, he was beloved of God, and
I'd like to bring one more thing before we get out of here. Is that when David was hiding in the cave, and Saul wound up being in the same cave. And the same cave, but David's on the run and hide. And so when you think about the 57th Psalm that David wrote, and then people might want to look at that, the 57th Psalm. David in the exact same cave, and he's there first, and Saul looking for David and don't know they're in the same cave.
They're in the same cave.
You know what I mean? And David had to get up out of there, come out that cave. So a deep sleep fall on him. He had to come out that same situation, but we don't see everything in the writings. He had to pass by him and his troops, or either fight his way out. So it's a lot of intrigues, and we only find that like from the Psalms. You get certain intrigues from the Psalm, certain excerpts, from the actual Chronicles itself. Or Samuel, the book of Samuel, rather get certain intrigues from the actual Samuel itself concerning King David. But it's a lot of intermittent stories and episodes that we don't see unless you look at the Psalms itself and get a perspective from the Psalm that he wrote concerning his endeavors there. That's why we get the 51st Psalm concerning his endeavor of his plea. All we know is he fasted and prayed. But when we read the 51st Psalm, we read, this was on his mind. He wrote this down. This was his state of being. And so much so that God said, the temple could be in your heart. Let that suffice. And said, your son after you shall build it. Guaranteed. And Solomon did that. And Solomon gave the blessing concerning that you kept all that you promised my father. So much for David. Not that to build him up because I claim the tribe of Yehudah and stuff like that.
You do a little.
No. I try to share the truth that you got. Yeah, I like to say, I quoted for the rest of the people to note it. So something you can.
Oh man, it's good. It's good to talk about the history, to talk about our history.
Well, you got a big job in the Hasmonean period because you're gonna have a big job with this Melchizedek, this king priest thing.
Oh man.
So,
and I know you have a strong opinion on that already. You tell me.
No. You do an excellent job. I must admit. I'll tell you every year. You get stronger and stronger. I highlight a lot of stuff in the Maccabean period.
Right.
That area there. Now that's one of that. I mean, you could blot it over with some, black mark and say, white it out, but you're gonna see that lump in the page.
Yeah, that was They were doing a lot during that time, but everything was so discombobulated.
They went straight out to Harold got up in there.
Yeah, I know they was doing a lot, but what can you do? You had to survive for that time, so you had to do what you had to do. I'm making excuses for my Levite people too. We had to do what we had to do.
Hey, you're not giving them an excuse, you give them a reason for what they did.
There you go.
Yeah, you give them a reason for what they did. You know what I mean? And I can understand that because it was strange that 2 years later you decided to fight.
Yeah.
And you ain't that far from Jerusalem.
You ain't that far. That's right.
That's right. So with that, I appreciate it. This time. I know people are gonna say, "Well, man, that was almost 2 hours."
But it's okay because the days, the nights are longer, more, and the sun goes down so much earlier that this is. By the time this is over, it's only like 6 o'clock, something like that, 6, 7 o'clock. So it doesn't matter. That's why it's okay. So thank you once again, Nasik. We thank you for your time and the job that you do on this channel. We appreciate everything that you do, and we pray that the Most High God will continue to bless you. Hallelujah.
All of us.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the